Aloha mai, aloha ahi ahi. We're going to get started. Thank you for your patience as folks are still rolling in. Please make sure that you have a dinner bento so you're nourished as we have our conversation. So we have two keiki who are going to start off our welcome, followed by Kahuna Nui Lamaku.
Ea ke mele oho e ho mai. Aloha e mele ana kako I ke mele o e ala e na mamoe. O hale manu ko ino. O e lana ko ino. Noho au ma holua loa kona e nane mai I ke ia mele. E ala e na mamoe. E mala mai ko ne hana ue. E pula mai na makana lua ole o na kupuna e. E oni pa kako e. Na koa vivo ole o kala hui e. E hoi hou ana ke e a o ka aina I na kanaka mauli e. E huli ana o iwi ma kona au Hawaii e. E ho o mau ka ha o na kupuna e. A maloa ku e. E ho o lo kahi e. Na ki pu'u a ka meha e. E ala ka I pono no na hanauna e. E hiki mai ana e. No la ko e ala e na mamo e. E ala e.
Mahalo. Ai, he keiki no kona hanai ia ma na ahupa'a o holualoa me o oma. Mahalo. Mahalo e na ohana o no kona na kupuna, na makua, na kamali'i, aloha mai kākou. At this time, I'd like to please ask Kahuna Nui Lamaku to also share her thoughts. Mahalo.
Aloha mai kākou. Aloha. I am Kahuna Nui La'au Lamaku Mikahala Roy. I look forward to giving my testimony tonight. I represent the temple that was raised by my father, Ali'i David Kili'ihele Mauna Roy Jr., that no longer looks like this because a hotel has damaged it. And the one request he asked was that the future landholders honor the kingdom of Hawaii. They couldn't do that. So it doesn't look like this today. Instead, it has swelled by Opua to now take up the enormity from Kaloko to Honaunau. Where I reside is Halau No'eo Kahele Mauna, and the temple has largely amassed and grown. This has reference to Mauna Kea. My father is David Kili'ihele Maunaroy Jr. I look forward to talking about him. And to Ali'i. Ali'i. Naluahine ka Opua, 107 years young. I sat on his lap when I was 1 year old. And he was Konahiki of Kamakohonu, where the temple was restored. I'd like to lead us in an oli to Akua Most High God to ask for his presence here in this very important meeting. All of them are on this subject. I have given this chant before in Hilo when in all levels of discussion of this subject. I have served involved with many of these committees for long numbers of years, following in my father's footsteps. We have to have God's guidance. Ai o ie, ai o ie, ai o ie, o piha a, o piha e, o piha I, o piha o piha u.
Mahalo nui, e la maku. Thank you to the lineal descendants to care, and the many lineal descendants that are here this evening to continue to care for the Aina of Kona. So at this time, I'm just going to quickly go over the components of this evening. The way that we have it structured is about the first 20 minutes. It's going to be about providing you information, foundational information, to equip you to go into our breakout discussions. We have 3 areas for which we are asking your direct input. Why are we asking your direct input? Because the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority is charged with standing up a new agency to care for Mauna Kea, and it needs to be fueled. You asked to provide support and input, and this agency wants to hear directly from you. We're here to help guide the authority in creating a new comprehensive management plan for the care of Mauna Kea. So after we break out into three breakout sessions with 3 topical areas: access and use, uncovering unaddressed issues, which will lead to an aspirational statement, and then the third around the application of Hawaii knowledge, ancestral knowledge, to structure the governance of the authority through Kanawai. We're going to end this evening with Q&A, so we want to make sure that you stay to the end, please. That way you can ask all the additional questions that you might have that was not addressed in your small breakout groups. If you have further recommendations and comments, that's also the time for you to please provide that. And with that, I'm now going to go into who are we, who us. So behind me are a number of logos. And so this is a big effort, and we are standing proudly as Kanaka organizations and companies. We're all rooted here in Hawaii. We all believe that our aina and the values of Hawaii are paramount to doing any type of activity here in Hawaii. So we stand together, and if you're from Detail or SSFM or Mahina Consulting or EKF, can you please just acknowledge your presence? Mahalo nui. Thank you. We also have our authority members as well as staff members. And so we have a few MKSOA authority members that are present. We have Vice Chair, here in the room, we have Vice Chair, Dr. Noinoi Wong Wilson. Mahalo, Auntie Noinoi. We also have Vice Chair Rich Matsura in the back. And we have Mr. Neil Koho'okele-Hannes that also serves as an authority member. Mahalo nui. Folks, this is our 10th, actually 16th meeting for this phase of the effort. And we're just really happy that we get to close this portion of ongoing community conversation here in Kona. I just live 10 minutes up the road, maybe 9 minutes. So I'm really glad to be able to end this day here in our beloved land. We also have MKSOA staff that's led by Mr. John DeFries, Executive Director, Project Director Bill Stormont. We also have Pua Ena'an. Is he here? He might be at registration as well. And we also have Lloyd Unibasami, who couldn't join us today, but he sends his aloha. Of course, all of the authority members that are not here present today all send their best wishes and their aloha. Chair Komeiji wanted to be here. He needs to be at the legislature in this season and sends his aloha to each of us. So this is the part where now we roll into background information so that we can get equipped and then go into our conversations. What we've tried to do is minimize the information download and dump so that we can maximize about 75 minutes of your time so you can give all of the input. And then again, at the last part of the evening to give additional recommendations and input. Okay, so I'm gonna call on Dr. Auntie Noinoi Wong Wilson.
Aloha mai kako. Aloha everybody. I see a lot of people, a lot of faces I recognize. So welcome. Welcome to this beautiful aina that I am also a visitor of. I'm from Hilo. As mentioned, my name is Noinoi Wong Wilson. You can just call me Noinoi. Only the young ones call me Auntie. I am the first vice chair of Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, which we affectionately call MKSOA, or the authority, a name given to us by the legislature. That was not the name we first proposed. I wanted to give you a little bit of background so that we have some common understanding about why we're even here and why there's this attempt to invite your input into what will become our new management plan for the area, at least the areas of the Mauna that we care for. And you'll see a map, if it's not up behind me, that shows you those areas, which is basically the summit, the very summit of the Mauna, where the observatories are, the Halepohaku complex, where the visitor center is, and there's an easement on the road between those two spaces that are currently under the jurisdiction of the University of Hawaii. But in this plan, and under the authority's jurisdiction, in 2028, all of that kuleana will come fully under the authority. So we're in a period we call transition. And in this transition period, by the legislation that was passed, we have to develop a new management plan based on our framework and our principles. And we have chosen some principles that we'll show you in just a moment that will underpin all the work that we do. In addition to that, we have to develop new administrative rules. And in the meantime, we still rely on the existing rules, which are part of the university system. So by 2028, we have the ability to put all these legs in place, so to speak, that hold up the authority and then transition all of the kuleana over to us. And so that's something that we want to make sure that you understand. Let me see what's on the screen. Yep. These are the 3 values that were part of the working group report. And let me explain the working group to you. We all know what happened in 2014, 2015. Some very young people, they were young at the time anyway. Koho'okahi over here in the front, Lanakila Manguel and others. In this period of time, they stopped the groundbreaking for the TMT telescope, right? And that began, you know, somewhat of an occupation of parts of the Mauna, which culminated in 2019 and 2020 in us taking a full stand and blocking the road. You recall that? Anybody don't know what I'm talking about? Okay, you all do. And there are a number of us, and I have to give aloha to all my fellow kupuna over there in the corner who lived up on the Mauna for 7 to 9 months during that stand. And we did that because we all love that place. We love it enough to leave our homes and our families and with all of our community to make sure that we were finally going to be heard by government. And we wanted to make sure that our opinions and our viewpoint about the specialty, the significance, the sacredness of that Mauna, and especially the summit region, is incorporated into the way we act as humans on the Mauna. And that's everybody, not just astronomy, but certainly astronomy, but all of us as Po'e Kanaka, right? So that's what we're attempting to do, is base on these principles of Mauna Aloha, of Ohu Kupuna, of Holomua Oi Kela Kela, or creativity and ingenuity in addressing the problems that we have to solve, are all principles. In addition to that, and Tipua Kanakaole was part of our working group, and she introduced Kanawai. So we're going to learn a little bit about Kanawai, which we call our natural laws or our Hawaiian environmental laws. You'll see in a minute a short video that she made for us so that we can share with you. Yes?
May I add information that the ancestors, you folks have not heard from the legislature has not reported to me what I have given to them. I have heard from the ancestors for all of the people. You need to let me share when you share about when Auntie Pua talks about hers. There is much more to come.
Absolutely.
I call for a special time that you all need to hear my report. You have not heard this from the government. I find that very disturbing. Our own governor and the legislature, I had let them know as early as 2021 and before, when these things all began to happen, 2014 actually. So this is a concern, and why I'm here. There cannot be any forward movement without addressing what has come.
Correct. So that's great because we want all this input and we want it on the record so that when your input is given to us, it's recorded, it's written down, and it becomes part of our report. So it's not something that you said in Kona, but nobody remembers or nobody claims to have heard that, right? So what Lamaku just mentioned about what she has shared with legislators and others, that's important information, and I hope that you share it tonight when we break out into the smaller groups and we can record those statements of yours as well.
You had it from last meeting. John DeFries, what happened? Did you get this information to everyone?
Yeah, we can talk about that in just a minute. So I wanted to share that with you and just set up the background as to how the authority came about. From the working group report, which was given to the legislature in 2021, the legislature created what we call Act 255. Act 255 created this authority for the specific reason of not only giving community voice, because we demanded that, but also to ensure that the members on the authority represent the full range of communities. So you see, the authority was introduced to you a little bit earlier. This is a really unique setup for a government agency where 8 of our people are Kanaka, 7 of us are actually community members, and we do have the requisite government officials, but we work together with all the same intent, moving forward, looking forward, with that same understanding of what all of this means, and you're going to get an opportunity to learn more about it tonight. So I just want to thank you for coming, because if it's not for your being here and providing us with the input, then we wouldn't have the robust management plan that we're really trying to develop, so that we can all look at it, say we're doing the best thing for our Mauna, and that you actually participated in the process, all of you. So mahalo nui for that. And then I want to also introduce Neil Hannes. Yep. Neil, he's going to talk to you a little bit about strategic framework. So mahalo nui.
Mahalo noi noi. We give credit to the legislature for creating us and thinking that there's a better way. There's something wrong if you're arresting people like our kupuna, if you're tied up in endless contested cases, and if you have expending a lot of time and resources on stupid litigation that doesn't resolve anything. So let's find a better way. Now, and I want to express my appreciation to you for being here and for allowing us here. And I want to thank my wife. I've made all 10 meetings this round. She supported me to be fully engaged in this, all 6 in the fall. So, and I do that because I've grown to really enjoy this time with community. We learn a lot. And one thing I know for sure is we have had a lot of historic issues that are unresolved. And I'm here to tell you that we weren't created to resolve all of them. And we're not the reinstatement of the Hawaiian Kingdom, MK SOA, but we are a new state agency that's designed and built a little differently. And those of us who are on this authority want to take full advantage of the differences, the things that make us different, to encourage this movement. It's not the end game, but it's the progress toward that, toward greater self-determination. So how are we different? So one way, as Noi Noi put it, it's a kind of different representation. You have cultural descendants, lineal descendants, people like me with Hawaii Island, Moko Keawe land management experience. You have educators like Kalehua Krug. You have people from the astronomy industry. We're saying we're not going to stack the deck. We're going to represent the key stakeholders. So that's one key way we're different. Another really important that I hope you saw on that slide that was a few, well, maybe you can go to that slide about the purpose. That what's paramount in this? The other one. There. Look at the second line. The health and integrity of Mauna Kea is paramount. Wow, this is not just a site. This is not just a parcel where we do stuff, where humans want to do things. This is kind of like the main stakeholder. We've made Mauna the Mauna the main stakeholder. So we got to figure out what its needs are before we figure out how we're going to fulfill our needs upon it. So that's one of the key. You don't see that, and by charter, if you will, by that legislation, that's what we're tasked to be. That's a little different from other state agencies. Now, by practice, we've also committed ourselves to be different. Part of that is to really require a lot of you. Committed to listening to what you're saying. And you know, when you have to share space with a whole bunch of other people, you can't always say all that you want to say. So we welcome the written material that can go into the record. We also have planned one-on-one meetings with different people, focus groups with different people who can't make it to these community meetings and so forth, and they have more, or who may have more to say than what they can say when they're sharing space with 10 other people in a little breakout group. So we're committed to that process of community engagement. We're committing to showing you what we do with that engagement, and it's in all likelihood there may be differences of opinions. So we're not going to reduce it and say we're only going to do and say what everybody agrees on. We're going to try and have a logic model put forth that really explains what we do and what we chose to follow up on and what we didn't. That's transparency. And then ultimately we are committed to accountability. that if we say we're going to do things, we ought to see in the regulatory process, in the actions of the authority, consistency. If you say you're going to decommission a telescope, decommission it and get all the opal off the mountain. Things like that. So that's by practice how we intend to be, maybe a little bit different from how others have done things. In this guidance, to guide us, much like a canoe on a long voyage, we feel like we need a strategic framework to be our guiding star, to be that destination of where we want to get to. Let's not just start acting and make decisions based upon shiny objects of transactions or money or pressures of time. Let's figure out really what we aspire to, what our actions are, put that forward, and then think about how we regulate human behavior so that we get there. So it's a two-part process, a strategic framework, and then a regulatory or management framework. We're going to invite you into both parts tonight. We can't have you write all the whole plan. That's not your job. You know, it's our job to get that plan written. But we want some flavor from you, some input from you. So on the strategic side, we're going to invite some discussion about the aspirational statement. And the legislature told us to do this, to include an aspirational statement that acknowledges and contextualizes unresolved social justice issues that underpin the conservation, preservation, public use of Mauna Kea. Again, not necessarily that we're authorized to solve all that, but these issues keep coming up, right? And they're all intertwined. So our job is to kind of create an aspirational statement that recognizes what those issues are. So tell us what they are in your view. So on the strategic side, we'd like you to help us inform, give us your thoughts about that. On the management side, we have issues. One of the hot button issues is access. You know, and how do we, you know, what are the problems of access? What are the desires of access? What are the risks of access? And how do what should we be thinking about in terms of how we control that and regulate that access? So we'll have some discussion about that, and we'll try and do something with it ultimately. The beauty, and I think it's the other part of our practice of how we be different, is to really ground ourselves in an indigenous knowledge framework. And yeah, there's more that Opua certainly has to say, or EKF has to say about that, and other Hawaiian scholars have to say that, or people like Lamaku have to say about that. And so, but we're going to start by, this is a little sample, and some of you may have seen it, and those of us who've seen it, like me and Rich, or Noi, 15, 16 times, we're still out of it. You know, if we want to take advantage of knowledge there that's before us and build that into how we think today and how we move forward. And so our dear and beloved and respected Tipua Kanehele talking about deriving from the Kumulipo thoughts about the kanawai, the laws that we should be adhering to in order to really exist harmoniously with this planet, with this place. Let's hear from Atipua.
You know, it's a real honor to talk about kanawai because it's not something we hear all the time, but it's something that existed for a long time, and it's something that continues to exist because it has to do with this land that we live on, and what we as Hawaiians anyway should know about this land that we live on. That's what the kanawais are all about. Kanawai is first and foremost is called a law, but it's like a code or a decree or a regulation. Any one of those will identify the idea of kanawai. And the first kanawai that we're going to talk about is a kanawai called Ho'okiki kanawai. Ho'okiki kanawai. Okay, and Ho'okiki kanawai is the law of continuum. And so this is about Kanakas, trying to educate Kanakas about what's happening on their land and how they can make their land exist for many generations. So this kanawai has to do with the law of continuum. And Ho'okiki kanawai is, the idea of Ho'okiki is to let things flow. And if you look around you, what are the things that flows? And one of the things that flow on our land is water. And they focus on water a lot because water is one of our main sources of life. for life. And so the idea of ho'okiki kanawai is the idea of allowing or being aware of where water flows. And the other thing that flows is magma. And the great thing about magma and lava is once it comes up, whoosh, 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 and then it flows, it comes up out of the ground, and then it flows down to the ocean. What it does, it gives us land. And we look at it sometimes as being destructive. It is not destructive. It does what it has to do in order for us to have land. And so what the ho'okiki kanawai is stay out of its way. Okay, allow it to flow. And then the idea of water that flows, Mauna Kea, the Opua of Ka'ohe runs from Hamakua, and it's a small Opua, runs from Hamakua to the top of Mauna Kea and over to Mauna Loa. Ka'ohe is bamboo. And the idea of the bamboo and why it's called bamboo, it has to do with water. And between the two mountains catches the most water. And it catches the most water, and this water will go into the earth, go into a bamboo idea of water basins. And then the water will leak out from it very slowly. And so you have all of these water basins between the two mountains. And that's why we have really big rivers in the Hamakua district, because of all the water that flows down freely. So the consciousness of what flows, where it flows, why we should be conscious of it flows, because it gives us life and because it gives us a place to live. And water is what we need for life. And a lot of the water has to do with the two mountains that we live on. Yeah. That's the idea of the continuum. The other kanawai is kua'a kanawai. Kua'a is the burning back, the law of the burning back. Now, the law of the burning back has to do with the gestating of landscape, basically, gestating of landscape. You know, they initially looked at it as, or compared it to an ali'i of very, very high rank. You don't approach the ali'i of very high rank because he is out of reach of everybody. It's the same thing with these land areas, the landscape that we need to hold sacred, or we need to hold like they're going to do a lot of good for us, because these are the land areas that are necessary for our existence. One is, of course, the volcano, and is one of it. The other is places that have marshes and streams and rivers and coral heads and the idea of the wet forest, because all of these things help to reproduce what's in there on the land. Coral head lets things out into the ocean, and a lot of fish go for it. Okay. And the wet forest is what gives life to more forests. Okay. And the streams do the same thing. And so this is the idea of the law of the burning back. So you look for these places and you be sure that you allow these places to maintain itself as it is. The other kanawai is Kailua-Kona kanawai. Kailua-Kona kanawai is the law of natural boundaries. Now, this is a law that we as Kanakas need to be aware of. Okay. The law of natural bodies is the law where all of these things that I just talked about, the volcano, the movement of water, and all of that, where they are moving. And what it's saying is that you have to recognize the boundary. So this is what this is saying. Know the boundaries. Know your boundary as a Kanaka, and know the boundaries of the land. So Kanawai is all about the environment, all about the land. and what the land is doing and where the land is and how the land provides for us. And therefore, our idea of being conscious of it and staying away from places that is not good for us. Okay, the last kanawai is ki ho'i ho'i kanawai. And ki ho'i ho'i kanawai is the law of regeneration. And so the law of regeneration is that it's like the first law is the law of continuum. We need to continue our own generation of Kanakas. And we need to see that the generation of the native trees continue. We need to see that the generation of the native birds continue, or the generations of the insects that live in these areas continue because they're the food for the birds. And so we have to be conscious of all of that as natives of the island. And again, these are the 4 laws of the land. And the law of regeneration is that we go out and there is a sense of reciprocation. And the sense of reciprocation is, if you go back to the Kumulipo in the first 2 lines, I was going to say this with the first kanawai, but I didn't. But with this particular line, the first 2 lines of the Kumulipo, o ke au I kahuli vela ka honua. And when you talk about that, people say, oh, that's when our earth is hot. No, it's talking about the lava. When the lava is hot, it makes our earth hot. O ke au I kahuli lole kalani. And what that does when our earth gets hot like that, and a lot of steam is coming up, it clouds the sky. O ke au I kukayaka kala, it hides the sun. What it's doing, it's returning water to the space above and turning it into clouds. And eventually, what that does is that cloud system will return the water back to us. So there's the is the idea of reciprocation. And the land gives that the land does give back.
So I've asked Bill Stormont just to elaborate just slightly, maybe another minute or so, on the project site, the actual area that MKSOA is their effort.
Mahalo for all of you for being here tonight. We appreciate it very much. It's important, and we found in these gatherings that folks aren't quite sure what the kuleana is and where the responsibilities lie with the lands. On the image on the left there, that's the summit of Mauna Kea. A little bit of history lesson. All of that, and this is the upper reaches of the mountain. Early in the 1900s, designated as the Mauna Kea Forest Reserve, lands on the summit and surrounding. 1968, fast forward, the university has been given a lease from the state for the area that's in that white circle, including the 3 mouse ears on the northeast side of the mountain. That's Pu'u Makanaka and Pu'u Ala and an unnamed Pu'u. But the circle was complete at the time. And that was the Mauna Kea Science Reserve. It was about 13,000 acres of land and designated as such and in a lease given to the university, and they began to develop telescopes in the center of it up on the summit. In the 1980s, the Natural Area Reserve System was established by the state, and the triangular piece of land to the south, the lower portion of the image, and the red line was removed and designated as a Natural Area Reserve. And at the very top of that piece of pie, if you will, is where Lake Waiau is, Pu'u Waiau, and Keanakakoi, the large concentration of ADS workshop sites, is within the Natural Area Reserve. And so there is the upper portion of the mountain in that circle, minus the triangle. The small piece of land, 19 acres at Halepohaku, at the very bottom of the image there, that's at about 9,000 feet. The The circle is roughly 12,000 feet elevation and up, if you understand, if you have a sense of the mountain, if you've been there. And so there are those two pieces of land that are part of the kuleana of the university now that are coming to Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, as well as the road corridor from Halepohaku to the summit. That is a non-exclusive easement that the state has given to the university for access to the mountain and the public access as well. So it's those three parcels, the larger 11,000 some odd acres of the upper reaches of the mountain, the 19 acres at Halepohaku, and the road corridor. So, yes?
Start again, the very beginning on how and what year that was the beginning of the top of the Mauna?
The original, the university was given the lease in 1968. It was a 65-year lease.
Prior to that, though, in the very early times after the overthrow, can you talk about that?
Briefly, sure. The State Forest Reserve System was established in 1903, and lands across the state, public lands that were held in trust by the state and managed for the communities and the public, were designated as forest reserve all across the Pai'aina, including the Mauna Kea Forest Reserve.
Very important for you to say, because that's in the law for the people.
Yes, absolutely.
So, how it got out of that is the question that many of us that have become very well trained in their work on this will bring, and I will bring spiritual reasons for the words I'll give, but for information on these kinds of things, there's a lot of people who have done a lot of work, and to say that those lands, they're the rights of the people.
Yes, mahalo. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Mahalo. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we promised that we would maximize time for you to have conversation, and then you're going to come back, and then we're going to have conversation all together. So look at your name tag. If you have a green dot on there, if you have a green dot, you're going to gather your things, and you're going to follow Wai Ale Ale. And you're going to have a conversation. We're looking at the same questions. We're talking through the same questions. So green dot, yes, wait, Ale Ale, right over here. 1 hour, 1 hour. And then we have another conversation at the end with the whole group,
That's really a long time that way. Can we talk about any questions people have here? We're gonna do that.
for organizing yourself so that we have, and I will acknowledge again at when we get back into our full group, but Pomai Bertelman just joined us. She's an authority member as well, and we have Nahua from the Center for Mauna Kea Stewardship, and then also Uncle Kalani Flores. I forgot to reference your Mana'oi'ua company. Thank you for also joining forces with us. So if you have a blue dot, you are here. Mahalo nui.
I just go move them on the side. Maybe put them like that. All right. Aloha kako. Mahalo for being here. My name is Lala. I come from Waikeuka and Hilo. It's on. It's just live. Okay, I'll speak up for you then. Kalomai, thank you. Yeah, please speak up if you cannot hear. I'm Lala Nas. I come from Waikeuka and Hilo, part of the team in supporting this process. This is Heather. She also is with SSFM. She'll be taking notes. In orienting to the space today, just some of the etiquette. We're really grounding in aloha aina, care for land, care for each other, respect for land, respect for each other. So be mindful of the space you take up or don't take up. Look at this as a creative process as well in providing input. Mahalo. Pass the mic, literally. So we are also recording this to transcribe so we can be accurate in representing community voice. If for whatever reason you're not comfortable in having your voice recorded and transcribed, I get it. We do offer folks, please still participate. And if you want to provide input, the online form is on the website with the exact same questions. So you're able to still participate, even if you don't feel like you want to be recorded today. And then make space and take space, thinking about listening deeply, connect with compassion, and use your voice to also take space. As Mahina shared, we really want genuine input and feedback respectfully. That's the initiative here, is to really provide genuine space for honest input, concerns, questions, and then bring your full self. So again, there's no wrong question, there's no wrong answer, there's no wrong feedback. Yeah, and Auntie Noi Noi. Aye. Mahalo for that, Auntie Noi Noi. Mahalo for that. Thank you. Okay. So we have 4 questions total in kind of 3 different subject matter areas we'll go through. We have about 20 minutes for the first 2 questions, 15 minutes for the third, and 20 minutes for the last question. And before we get going on the questions, we want to get folks to know each other a little bit, a little launa. So everyone received one of their little postcards with the palila on it. And the question that we would love folks to share in launa is turn to the person next to you, ideally someone you don't necessarily know. Share your name, the aina you come from, and what your vision is for Mauna Kea. That's a big question, but get the juices flowing and relationships connecting. We'll spend about 2 minutes doing that. And we also ask that you fill this out and return it at the end of the evening. This is another form of community input that we are going to be utilizing in the process of the plan, and as well as advocacy, making sure community voices are heard. Does anyone need a card? Iki. I think we're good. Okay, so we'll spend the next 2 minutes getting to know each other a little launa. So turn to the person next to you, your name, your aina, and what is your vision for Mauna Kea? Hikino? And feel free to go across the room too if you need to. Mahalo. So we're just going to jump right into the 4 questions, okay? This first question, the first 2 are around access and use of the Mauna, particularly where we saw the border lines that the University of Hawaii currently manages, and MKSOA will be transitioning into stewarding and managing. So this first question is looking at impacts and monitoring. So what are some examples of social, safety, and conservation impacts of recreational use that should be monitored? So when you think about the Mauna, what are they? What are the impacts around social, safety, conservation? And that should be monitored specifically. Go ahead, Para. Mahalo keikoa.
I'm just asking before we answer these questions. Are these the same questions that when you folks came to Kona, are these still the same 4 questions? These are different questions from that set of... It is different. Mahalo, mahina. Thank you so much.
Mahalo.
I didn't participate in the first meeting. You know why? They wouldn't let me talk. And then everyone went outside. And everyone went outside in the dark and they talked. I wouldn't know what discussions were made. But I'll tell you this, I started with saying this is no authority. There's only one authority, and that's God. And this Mauna is a representation of the world. My temple is the manifestation of the temple of the land, which is Mauna Kea. And we have begun to hear from the ancestors. In 2010, I began to hear from the ancestors. Why? This is the first restored temple in all of Hawaii and the world. Because of its restoration, perhaps this is why they are now discussing. And the man I introduced you to is the great Ali'i. Was Konohiki of and knows very well these lands, starting with Mauna Kea. So there is no authority. I contest the name of this group. It is no authority. Authority belongs to God only. And so that's, I cannot know what questions were asked because that's what happened last time. I couldn't even speak. Couldn't even speak.
Mahalo, Auntie, would you like to join us now?
Sure, I'm here.
She wants to be referenced as Kahuna Nui Lamako.
Hikino, kalamai.
The last kahuna nui for Au'enehea was Heva Heva. What an amazing history you are hearing, and I am living for us all. And I am in awe in every moment of this life for it. I have to share, and I'm so happy to see my Lahui and people who care. Because this Mauna is not for man. This Mauna is the Mauna of God for the earth, for man in healing. And that's why Au'enehea has grown in its mana, and it is in cadence with the meaning of the Mauna. All lands from, Opua says, all lands from Kaloko to Hononau, no new development, no Ali'i Highway. Why? Because these lands have relevance to the Mauna. And the Mauna is necessary now for the healing of earth. I am Lamaku, meaning standing torch for God. This is how our people, God chose one representative to speak for him on earth, not just in the Pacific, but on earth. I am honored to be the first Lamaku of the modern era. How amazing this is. So here, this is what the importance of this testimony is. Thank you.
Mahalo, mahalo. Anybody else want to share?
To speak specifically to the impacts of recreational use, I think that we need to enhance our role in the winter sports when there's snow on the mountain. Be more aware of that, particularly skiing, snowboarding. I've done it, not understanding what was around me, many years ago, and I think that there needs to be further respect in that arena.
Mahalo for that, especially right in the season. Yeah. Anybody else want to share, please? Go ahead, Mona.
I just am concerned that if recreational use is allowed, where are the toilets? Where are they going to use the bathroom? And then the recreational use, you get the people up there, they're not going to stay on the road. They're going to get their little four-wheelers and they go all over the place, making any kind, places where they shouldn't go. And even if you put signs, well, they're still going to go. So, you can't have somebody up there 24/7. So if you allow some, you gotta allow all, and I think that's a'oli pono.
Thinking about social safety and conservation impacts that need to be better monitored or considered when it comes to recreational use.
My name is Kekua Lip. I used to work up on the Mauna, and what I would witness at times is when, and this is in regard to safety on the Mauna, how many times like folks would jump out, they're all excited, pass out, lack of oxygen, maybe they're too excited, didn't eat. The body is not really meant for like that altitude above the 10,000 foot level. So maybe monitoring how many times there are safety. I know that the rangers do a great job as well with this, but having it as part of your stewardship moving forward is one of the top things that you might want to look at, is the safety of people and what types of injuries to mitigate safety hazards further.
Mahalo for that. Mahalo. We'll go to the next question. So, Hikino, Kalamai.
Aloha. Hi, Tirine. I'm going to do this in for Uncle Ku. The preservation and conservation of the foot trails. There's so many up there that are not always monitored and are really localized knowledge. And so how do we malama that with advertising them for hikers? And how do we balance the kanawai of the state, the Highways Act, which means that we got to keep places open because now they're public trails in dangerous conditions. Concern those, keep them open and active for those kanaka that need to continue to walk them with function. And because I wanted to go see is not always a function, because even when Emma went up there to go see, she had a function in that ikemaka as well. So, yeah.
Before we move on to the next question, any other? Go ahead, Lamaku.
Are signs, symbols that are important in the spirituality of Ui. Omaka Olaho Kailua-Kona, Akua's sacred name for fissure 8, is the great Ho'ailona of all life here and everywhere. What occurs by this eruption? By this eruption, we may know that our source brings rebirth to our planet in Hawaii, where the first birth happened so very long ago. The eruption in Hawaii that created Fissure 8 is one of the greatest eruptions ever. Ancestors say this eruption stands as the greatest manifestation of all time, as the representation of the connection of Earth and all life to our source of life. In 2011, we saw a record number of lightning strikes in Hawaii, more than ever recorded since weather recording began in 1959. No incidences of harm came to land or man. That year, lightning knocked out the first large telescope built on Mauna Kea. That happened. There's so much to say that I will give you the mic back, expecting it back.
So this next question, once Heather's Pau taking notes. Hiki, mahalo. How might the authority provide guidance to ensure that individuals have the information to conduct themselves in an appropriate and a pono way when they're on the mauna? So this is looking at guidance and how MKSOA can formally create guidance that would support recreational users and how to conduct themselves in a pono way while on the mauna. You can think of maybe other conservation spaces that are models, whether it's here in Hawaii or other places that, yeah, go ahead.
So I'll just share a couple of highlights from other conversations for this phase of ongoing community engagement. So we visited Kauai, Maui, Molokai, Oahu, Olau, and Waianae, and here on Hawaii we have 5 Hawaii Moku. So some of the highlights, folks have brought up a couple of models. One is Ha'ena, North Shore Kauai, as a model, right? As a model for how to manage use. Second, another area is Hanauma Bay, right? Where there's basically a cattle chute and you are captured and you are required, all folks are required to go through an orientation. Those examples. Last night in Ka'u, folks were saying they brought up the idea of a special use permit. So anyone going up should be required, like Papahana Mauna Kea, like Kaho'olave, for example, and that there are of activities to ensure that their conduct is pono. Those are some examples of what other communities are talking about.
This will get me shot by some people, but I think that Mauna Kea is special enough that you have some kind of almost like a license or a permit that you've been through an educational situation beyond what they do at Hanauma Bay. I mean, that's a good first start, but particularly if you want to take other people there to do things, and if you want to be a ringleader, then you have to have another level of licensure, or I don't know, that might be word, but some kind of permitting, or and then we know who's responsible if something goes wrong. I mean, the rangers have a tough enough job as it is, that they shouldn't have to be playing policeman on top of that. So.
I think that today we live in a technology, like technically advanced. I think everyone knows what a QR code is, maybe having a QR code posted up. All cars must go through the rangers anyway. Or maybe having a QR code that lists the guiding principles, give you a lot of the information. Along with that, prior to moving forward, I know this sounds a little restrictive, but having a signature that they read the rules, regulations, and information regarding how to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner.
Mahalo for that.
So at Pololu, we initiated the steward program, and you're required to check in with the steward before going into the valley. We've greatly reduced the number of hikers because of that requirement, and the steward's job is to educate you before you go down, and also check the permits. And so at Pololu, if you have a group, you need to get a permit Lahele in order to take that group down. So it really restricts visitors to those who are not there for commercial purposes. And we work with the stewards so that the local community never feels prohibited from being there. And that was one of the challenges, because as we start to implement rules and restrictions, then we forget that the Kanaka that really want to be there feel restricted and not welcome. And so having a tutu there, we call them trail tutus now, to be able to educate you before you go down, invite you to sit with them if it's not a safe space, reduce the number of rescues because they're there. But it was also not just a ranger kind of person. It was somebody that could give you an authentic, like, I grew up here, this is my ancestral place. And that really made the difference in whether people were going to listen. We still have 10% of the people that we tell never come back again, and then we alert the village that they're on the way out so that people can escort them out. But that's, sorry. But that is really like that. I think returning to that kind of system where it engenders kuleana rangers and stewards to give that authentic experience. And there's a lot of evidence, whether it's permitting systems, as was mentioned, but like locally on this island that we're doing that are already working. I love Green Sands, by the way, in Ka'u. They handle that really well. You like go, you jump in my car, I take you in my car. Yeah. And then we get jobs for locals again. That was great.
Did the state tell you that Opua had an answer for Pololu? Did they tell you that? DLNR Don Chang knew all of the testimony I've given. I participated in meetings. Opua said no trailhead. And only the people of Pololu. You see, there's much to be done first. Let me talk about something that's very important. You need to hear some history. Mai tutu, kauea ka kawale no halea kala ka uea kikinia o ko'olau. With Isaac Davis, by a wedding by got brought into being by Kuakini. A child and their line forward. That lineage brought forward William F. J. Kahele Mauna Roy. At his lifetime, he amassed lands as large as Parker Ranch. These were the times after an overthrow. At that time, his influence was so large and would have begun a change of history to restore the kingdom of Hawaii. He met with Faupe. He was killed. What came years later, a little one that was bathed in the traditional family umeke. That little one was my father. And that was charged. That action was charged. This one had a very special mission. His mission was to restore the temple that is the manifestation of Mauna Kea. We don't even know our history in schools. We are not taught the way I am talking, the way that we need to learn from our own kupuna. But we are so put upon and hurt by people who came and overthrew our queen. It is not finished. So my father would have been, and my mother, the king and queen of a restored kingdom at that time. I am their descendant, and I am that representation as queen, representing our kingdom. And the king is named by Opua in the way of an io. He came to earth at Waikoloa, and he gave a message of who the leader will be. It turns out that Opua names two kahu of Ahuenaheau. One was my father, one was my mother. And now there are continuing two, myself and Ali'inui Mo'i Edmund Kili'ipaki Silva Jr. We are the representatives of the Kingdom of Hawaii who represent Most High God. And this Mauna is the entire sacred place of the world. this will not be built upon. Not be built upon. And here's a little bit of history in truth.
Thank you. So Auntie, Kahunui Lamaku brought us to this next statement already. So we'll go back to question number 2. I'm going to join you, Lala. So aspirational statement. Here on the board, it says Act 255 requires MKSOA to include an aspirational statement to acknowledge and contextualize unresolved social justice issues that underpin the conservation, preservation, and public use of Mauna Kea. So this is the time we've noted, make sure that, Lamaku's thoughts are noted here, as she just expressed. So I'd love to hear from those who have not yet spoken. What are some of the unresolved issues that need to be looked at, examined, addressed, brought to the surface?
Aloha. My name is Leslie. One of the practices that I love in Hawaii is this idea of asking permission. And I don't know everything about the history on the mountain, but I do know that it was primarily economic reasons for why astronomy went on the Mauna. And I know there were politicians who were involved with that, and the university. But it made me wonder about whether there was ever any permission by local community, by Native Hawaiians, for that use. And if we go forward, if there would be some way of asking permission for, well, whatever use the mountain is for.
Mahalo. I haven't heard from this side of the room yet, if anybody wants to speak. No. Hawale? Yes, please.
I don't know if this is the proper time to the right question, but as far as the buildings that are on there and the ones that they want to put on there, there is absolutely no need for astronomy, for science, for anyone of that in that area to have anything up on Mauna Kea. There are ELTs in Chile, there are in Canary Islands. They have telescopes in space that can see farther than anything. There is no need to put anything else on that Mauna. And once they remove everything, they should restore it as best they can.
Mahalo. Thoughts here? This corner of the room? Wale? I'm just going to check one more time before I bring back to you. Thoughts on this side? Aye.
You should say. The commercialization of Mauna Kea. I think that speaks for itself in regarding what we need to look at. So just the commercialization.
Decommercialization. Can you say more about that? Does that mean no tourism activity?
It's not no tourism activity. It's the commercialization of Mauna Kea is where some of the hurt comes in. Here in recreation, for like the first two questions, it's not listed, and I'm not trying to. I want to have the most respectful dialogue that we can. Recreation is a lot of what hurts as well, falling on the commercialization as well. Just putting it out there, like where a lot of the hurt, I think you folks really want to, when I say you folks is MKSOA, really want to hear from folks about what is going on, how we feel, Yes, and can expound further and later. I don't think this is where we get deep dive into it, but I think that's a great conversation to have.
Do you have any potential solutions? Do you have thoughts of possible recommendations of how to mitigate or how to address the hurt that is caused, as using your words, by commercialization and recreational use?
Before I get into what would be the solution, I would love to open it up and hear from others. I don't want to influence folks. Thank you.
Aloha, I'm Grace Alapai. Maybe an environmental impact study be done before anything else comes up on there would be really lovely to see, because I don't think one has been presented to the public that we know of or have been able to see. The air quality, the land, the soil, what's been happened to all of those having had commercial buildings up there, you know. Oh, and the water, yes.
I want to clarify if I'm understanding you correctly. You want to understand with data, what is the current health? What's the condition of health of Mauna Kea? So that we all have that baseline. But what sorts of information? Is that just from like conservation biologists or botanists? Where should that information come from?
Kupuna scientists that can test the air quality up there. Maybe we're not supposed to be up there, and that's why so many people pass out, you know, those types of things.
Thank you. Again? Yeah.
Aloha. First thing I think is we talk about, like, you know, unresolved issues. So I think first thing, as a new authority, I think it would be prudent and beneficial to look into the history of Mauna Kea to show that there in fact is authority through the agency of the state of Hawaii, right? Let's look at the title. Let's show a clear transfer of title, right, from the time of the kingdom, pre-1893, before the overthrow. Let's show a clear transfer of title into, you know, the republic, into the provisional, into the republic, into the territory, into statehood. Let's show that there's clear title there, because every living human being I've ever talked to has never seen that, right? That's a fact. So either nobody has access or it doesn't exist. That's the first thing I think that we should determine. Because we can't address issues and unresolved things. It starts there. Who has ownership, who has authority, legally speaking, to that land, even under the current political structure that we are under right now. That's the first thing. Second thing is, again, I think the question acknowledges that these things exist, right? That's so we cannot necessarily debate that, right? This question is being asked because unresolved issues, conservation, preservation, public use, all of those things exist. They exist due to a framework that was put in place. Well, some of us here were alive back then. I wasn't. And I'm not as young as I used to be, as was pointed out earlier tonight. Yeah. No. I'm not the only one who wasn't alive back then. I'm not trying to do anything. It was a long time ago. Aloha to everybody over here. Don't worry, I spent like 20 minutes plucking the grass this week, so if I didn't, you guys would think I'm in that same va. Okay, so there was something put in place, right? And this was, I think we just said 1960, it was transferred over to the state. Okay. So, and then under the current lease that is there, which is expiring pretty soon, right, there's language in there that mandates certain requirements, right? The restoration of the land to its natural state. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, nobody has been able to prove that that can be done. So as an authority who has the ability to grant a new lease, there's absolutely no need to. What we could be doing is instead ensuring that the language of that lease can be met can be followed through. If it can, well, maybe that provides a more wide pathway moving forward. But last I checked, again, these pieces of land that were destroyed, they're not at Hawaii Self-Storage, right? Those aren't being held, and they're not gonna super glue them back to the Mauna. So we need to be able to, again, let's instead of just moving forward with a system that, at the very least, I think as far as the language goes, whether we support the use of those things or not, but the language that's currently in those leases, I think there's, at the very least, skepticism as to whether or not those things can be fulfilled. If they cannot be fulfilled, then that's a clear signal, red light, must turn left, right? Maybe we gotta turn around and we gotta go all the way back. But there's no reason why us in 2026 should be imprisoned and, you know, bound by a system that was created 70 years ago, you know, and so now we have 70 more years of experience, we have 70 more years of information, the goods, the bads, the in-betweens. So for me, I would like to see us, rather than saying, hey, here's the box that was built, what are the things that we can do in it? Let's tear the box down, because the box was built, one, without consent, one, without proof of clear title, one, throughout years and years of, again, opposition and opposition and opposition. Tear the box down, start all over. I think there's a great opportunity here to be able to not have to live and mitigate and be confined by the limitations that were set in place before. We have more information, we have more data, we have more knowledge around all of these things. We can make better decisions and we can provide better management.
Very clear. Anyone else? Yes. Oh, and then Namaku. Okay.
Just to build off of that, I think we need to also look at the Mauna not as just an animate object anymore. And so when we're asking for health, I want to know the health of my kupuna. And when we're asking for ownership, it's like going through power of attorney right now for kupuna and making sure that we understand how to malama that in the best way. Because without having Opua spokespeople here, we have to have a way for the larger community to understand that as well. So, okay, that's my segue to Kahuna.
Thank you. Here's what you didn't hear from the government. These are the words of the ancestors. Na hua o lelo I kalama o na kupuna o Oiwi kau I ka ihi. Words of light of the most revered ancestors of Oiwi. Guidance from Opua for the planet is to take place from Mauna Kea in the new age of light in Keaulama, the era of light. This was furnished, by the way, to Mr. DeFries. And I'm told, did everyone get a copy I gave last time? Does each person have a copy? Commission? You know, I don't use the word because, again, I say there's only one authority, and that is God. We wish to impart Opua's plan to be shared with the members of Hawaii's state legislature in the peace of their forum, that they may comprehend and convey the biggest view and understanding of Mauna Kea to the governor of Hawaii and other representatives of the U.S. government, the President of the United States, and to all world leaders. As kahu of Ahua Neheyau, but also so importantly and historically for Hawaii, as Lamaku, the station you inherit by Opua for service to Opua. You are called by Opua to teach the cosmology of Oiwi, for Oiwi, and for all mankind. You are a divine healer by Opua for Oiwi and all of mankind, the planet and all life upon the planet. Opua calls upon you to share divine messages for good and helpful benefit to Oiwi and all mankind, the planet and all life upon the planet. By prescription from Opua, you are asked to help Opua heal the planet and all life upon the planet. For you teach of Keaulama, the age of light, now dawned upon the planet, beginning in Hawaii. We wish to convey to you words of light in the understanding of the history of the heavens, the cosmology of Oiwi that tells of the identity and sacred knowledge concerning the sacred components such as that identified in the West as the black hole. What is being revealed here is that by way of the conveyances of Akua through you, Lamaku, a new way of understanding, a look into the heavens and the whole identity of the heavens by Akua, by the spirituality of Oiwi, is beckoning mankind upon the planet. Why Mauna Kea is indeed the sacred pinnacle for Hawaii told. Why no further telescopes are necessary here, nor allowed here, will be told. Akua has spoken by the voice of the royal messenger and great Akua in the heavens as to what is at hand by Akua now. The age of light that heralds that is the new beginning, the rebirth of the planet, and all life upon the planet. It is the birth of the new age of light and change of world order. What arrives is the era of peace, love, harmony for all of mankind and the planet. The creation of the earth, very old present planet, began in the Pacific. Oiwi are Akua's firstborn of races, and Oiwi helped Akua lay the tracks for what became all faiths upon or from the divine Pacific Sea. Akua, with the assistance and presence of the divine seven identities, honored as Ku, Kane, Lono, Kanaloa, Hina, Laka, Pelehonoa Mea, caused the progression of life by Akua in the Pacific in the lands known as Kailua-Kona, translated as a second heaven. You, Lamaku, are asked to teach the cosmology of the first faith of Oiwi at Kamakuhonu and upon the planet. As Mauna Kea is the utterly divine connection between the life of the heavens and the life created by divine creator, Akua Manamanaloa of the heavens, it is sacred domain. Nothing should be up there. Now, it is sacred domain. You have forgotten, mankind has forgotten what these words mean. But Hawaii never lets us forget, because Hawaii means the spirit of Most High God. All mountaintops are the sacred domain in the same way. Oiwi are known as firstborn of Akua. They are the only ones of the earth, and that have not forgotten. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof.
I would just let her catch up where you stop. Just give her a chance to catch up.
Okay.
Before you go further, then.
There's not much more.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Akua wishes to guide the planet and all life upon the planet back to full health and long and successful life. Life eternal upon the earth is possible by the most divine gift of Akua in Keaulama, known as the Soul Light Era, spoken of by Master Zhigan Shah, if some of you may know this wonderful healer of China, great divine healer and founder of the Tao Academy and the Love, Peace, Harmony Network on the planet. Akua wishes to bring this gift from heaven's realms to all of life of earth's realms. The light creates movement and ongoing healing upon the earth. Akua wishes to begin this in the largest way for the new and healing planet in Hawaii, where life began upon the first and very old planet so very long ago. This is to be known as the creation of the kingdom of Akua, or the kingdom of God on the earth. Akua begins this by guidance from Mauna Kea's holy mountain and pinnacle of Kailua-Kona, the heaven in the Pacific. Divine Creator calls for the restoration of the kingdom of Hawaii, already begun by leader and ruler identified and chosen by Akua, Imoi Edmund Kili'ipaki Silva Jr. The governor of Hawaii and all offices of note have been informed of all of these movements. The Divine Creator calls for the restoration of the kingdom of Hawaii. This the government has known and yet has not revealed to you all of this that has come forward. You need to be told of this truth. How did we learn? Our people had visitations from the Io. You see, the hawk is the representation of Most High God. There was a call on Mother's Day 2015, a woman in Waikoloa found the EO that had fallen. That EO was the representation of one of my relatives back into the lineage of sacredness. This was told to me over these years. This message and that message gave us the name of the ruler chosen. So this information has been withheld, and so it's far time to bring it forward. Thank you.
Mahalo. We only have a few more minutes, and so I want to make sure anyone who has not spoken to the aspirational statement question, I really want to encourage those who have not spoken to please speak. You're not forced to, but I would like to encourage that. Okay? Question number 4. Any additional thoughts? Okay, we're going to move on. Question 3. Okay, so Act 255 requires MKSOA to incorporate indigenous management and cultural processes and values. So after learning a little bit about kanawai this evening, what are some examples of how kanawai should be utilized? More simply, what should kanawai inform? If we're gonna utilize, if MKSOA plans to use kanawai to structure their governance, their operations, and their management, what other advice do you have? Recommendations, examples?
How can you implement what you don't understand? They're not from here. They don't know what kanawai is. And the first laws come from the only authority, not this one. This is not an authority.
So I would love to hear from additional, thank you, Lamaku, anyone else, kanawai.
Not trying to take up all of the air and space. I think it's I think it'd be a great value to take a look at the Native Hawaiian nonprofit organizations, that the principles, the guidelines, the beliefs, and the values that they operate under really speak to the kanawai. I don't want to give examples and put people out there. There are many, many, many nonprofit organizations that we could be taking a look at as framework on what we're looking for here.
Well, I'll give an example. So folks on Molokai, Mo'omomi, they use certain kanawai and kilo practice to determine when they're going to ho'omalu certain species, when certain species are not gathered because they are spawning. So that is an example of a particular kanawai that is place-based. Other thoughts, examples? I mean, one simple question, do you agree that kanawai should be utilized to structure the governance? Okay, that's on the record. Anything else? Yeah. Do you, may I ask anyone from the MKSOA board or staff, why are you suggesting that kanawai be utilized to inform?
Sure. I think it should guide, the kanawai should guide our decisions, or not our decisions, but decisions that get made about, like in the past, where the tops of our pu'u were leveled in order to make space for buildings. There are certain kanawai, there's certain pu'u up on, especially up in the summit area, where nothing should be built. No one should be up there, some of those big pu'u. And that is, you know, kind of the kua'a kanawai, right? Sacred space, no one belongs there. No buildings, no humans. So there's a place perhaps on the Mauna for recreation. What are those places and what kind of recreation? And how do we make sure that we don't overrun the aina with our presence, right? And then how do we make sure that whatever use is allowed when all of this is completed, and it helps to guide those decisions in the future, that those decisions are not going to further desecrate those spaces so that they are no longer there for the future generations. That's our task for this entity, to ensure that Mauna Kea is healthy and preserved for future generations. So that's how kanawai can be used.
No, kanawai, so no telescopes built, was the comment from Lamaku.
I have to say something before. Can you just give me a minute? Go ahead.
I just want to go back to Kaukai's comment about breaking the box. And what excited me about this current process that we're in is that, to me, the kanawai is breaking the box. And it is looking at our way that we want to move forward in a lot of spaces in Hawaii. I think that's the importance of kanawai in this process moving forward. If we stick to policies and HRSs and all of those things, we remain in the box. But when we can go back to kanawai, we get to define a whole new horizon.
Mahalo. Yeah, and perhaps new kanawai are going to be created.
And I hope that you include this testimony that I am from Most High God. I hope you can fathom, but I'm not sure if you can, because this is such pristine information, but you are here. Can I tell you something? I am president of the first nonprofit to stand for sacred sites, Ku'ulana Huli Honua, Foundation of the Search for Wisdom. The state could not uphold the one question that my father put requirement. He said, all future landholders at Kamakohonu must respect and uphold the dignity of the capital. They couldn't even do that. My nonprofit had to hold, after serving for 10 years, we stopped Ali'i Parkway. We didn't know exactly all these pieces and how they fit, but now we do. Now, Akua brings a bigger vision, 40 miles. I call it the Kapukanaha, thanks to the men and women on the Mauna, where they have the Kapu Aloha. Now I say Kapukanaha, 40 miles. If we did not have the work of Kulana Huli Honua, that's a nonprofit, Noi Noi. We cannot trust the state. They are not an authority. You are not an authority. Thank you.
Mahalo, mahalo. What I also want to capture from what Lamaku just said is accountability. So if these kanawai are put into place, how would the MKSOA, how would we assure that they are adhering to the kanawai that they've adopted, right? Any additional thoughts? Because the other group is going to be coming over and we're going to have to set up for our final part. Any thoughts, additional thoughts? I have not heard from you folks. I'm like waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Okay. You can do it. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I think what's interesting to me about applying kanawai to MKSOA is not just in the decisions that are made, but how the authority operates. So how can kanawai be applied to how the authority gathers, makes decisions, engages the community, and not just the actual decisions that are being made?
Anything to add?
I'm excited that regardless of where we sit, I'm excited that we're able to use our values to guide us. Yeah.
Mahalo. Other communities have also talked about utilizing the kanawai for criterion. Yeah, so that if there's going to be special use permits, if there's going to be vendors or contractors, that they would have to, that the criterion for selecting bids or use would be based on kanawai. Any final comments? Mahalo nui. I need your assistance, please. We're going to set back our space, and we're going to conclude with our Q&A talk story. Mahalo nui. Okay, mahalo everyone. Please join us. Lala, I need a roll. Oh, they were right here. They can sit right here, actually, and put one here. Let's move that. Yeah. Let's put that in the back so they can keep pictures. Sure, thank you. Where's the other? Okay, can I have the authority members, please? And Mr. DeFries, please join me up here. Mahalo nui.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Uncle. Okay, here we go. I know your time is precious. We don't have very much time. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes for this part where you can ask questions, you can give final recommendations. My only ask is, I think we still have about 20 members here, 25 community members here. My ask is that please be mindful that another community member is going to want to talk as well. So we have to just make sure that we don't suck up all the oxygen. So I'm gonna walk around and I'm gonna hold the mic, not to be disrespectful, but so I can help with the movement of this conversation. So who would like to share? Recommendation, comments, or questions? Mahalo.
My question is, was there ever any thought in having Mauna Kea become a World Heritage Site with the protection that allows and the funding and the conservation of that, the UNESCO World Heritage Site?
We're not talking about a UNESCO site, but most recently there was a group that applied for it and was granted a TCP, traditional, that Mauna Kea, the summit of Mauna Kea is a traditional cultural property. So that does give it a level of protection under historic sites, under the United States government. Yeah, mahalo. Yeah, I know that, Lamaku, but I'm answering the question, so mahalo.
Questions, comments?
Yes, aloha. How will the kanawai be defined and applied, and who determines whether a violation occurred?
So what we're trying to do, and TC, mahalo for that question, is we're developing the management plan, and following that will be administrative rules. So in that process, some of the things that we're required to do is develop a carrying capacity, or try and determine like how many is enough, how many is too much, and what kind of rules do we put into place. The very questions we asked you tonight, they really are because we need to hear from community. So everything you've given us, which gives us a broad range, everything from we don't want anybody to tell us we cannot go to the mauna, to lock the gate at the bottom and don't let anybody up, is I guess, has to be considered. And how that is going to actually become part of the managed plan is after a process of reviewing all of this information, and then I'm certain coming back out to community to show you what we're proposing, and then once again get your comments for that. So we don't have a hard answer or answers yet to the questions that you're asking. We need to get there, and we need to get there in a way, hopefully, that the largest majority of the community will support what we're doing.
We need to have an ability to enforce, but if you rely solely on enforcement, probably not going to have enough officers. There has to be education. We have to fundamentally change the cultural, the worldview of people. And a lot of you recommended in sessions that I've heard, not only tonight, but elsewhere, a lot of educational process that really, apart from the Mauna, in our school systems, in our clubs and organizations and so forth. You know, if you aspire to have a culture like that, there's got to be repetitions. There's got to be things that cultivate a practice, communities of practice. It's not just going to be one, it's going to be many. We've talked to Rich, what is the community of practice of astronomy in Hawaii on that Mauna? It should be maybe a little bit different and informed by Kanawai. What should be the community of practice of natural resource management, the community of practice of all these different, of commercial tourism? Maybe it can be a little bit different. And then when they're starting to cultivate that practice in all the people that these multiple stakeholders affect, then you don't have to enforce so much because they know ahead of time. But there has to be some measure of enforcement, and we have to be prepared to do that. Otherwise, the rules just pull hole. I mean, you just paper, unless there's no consequence.
Okay, we have 2 more questions here, and then perhaps we have time for 2 additional.
I want to repeat that my nonprofit was the first nonprofit to advocate for sacred sites. It was not upheld by the state. If you can't do that, how can you do this? Kulana Huli Honua, Foundation of the Search for Wisdom.
Mahalo.
This is where the state allowed and in fact went the way of a developer that allowed Ahuenaheau to become a backdrop for a. How can we trust this entity that has overthrown our queen? And did you hear what I said from God? He intends to teach the world another view. We don't just need astronomy. We have ways and means of knowing spirit, and that is open for mankind, and that's coming from Hawaii and Oiwi. You need to hear this, all of you who are very educated. Neil, you brought up a point. Well, people who want to just know their spirit by getting in touch with the Mauna, having no telescopes up there, having the right to do that. That was taken away from us. Talk about unfinished business.
So
you cannot go forward. You cannot and you will not.
So thank you, Lamaku. Lamaku has also brought up several times in conversation this evening about accountability. So a question that I'm going to restate based on the input and recommendation from Lamaku is, how will MKSOA ensure that whatever you put forward, that you will be accountable? And what are the consequences if milestones, objectives are not met? So that just for the record as the question.
So we're given in this legislation a 5-year transition period in which to accomplish a very, very challenging task, and that's to set up a brand new state agency with a whole new way of doing business. Unlike any other state agency or entity that ever existed in Hawaii, that's what we're in the middle of it. One of the political threats under the state of Hawaii, which I realize there are people in the audience who don't recognize the state. So I appreciate you being here, because we are part of the state, and this is a state event, if you want to call it that. But one of the challenges we have politically is, though there are individuals in our legislature who would prefer that this just simply go back to the university. So that's the other option. So the answer to the question is, how do we make sure that our audience, our community, and who is us, we are community as well, how do we make sure that everyone understands what we're trying to do, holds us accountable for it, and supports, which is what we're looking for, supports what we do, because we're going to base our decisions a lot on the input that you've provided us. And if that doesn't work for the larger community, then by all means support the people who would like to return it to the university. If you would like it to be the way it was before, then you would sit on the side that says this is All shibai, you don't need to be doing this. We don't need to be spending our days and our nights as volunteers to try and create something new to protect Mauna Kea. I hope that. Yeah, mahalo. Keikoa, mahalo.
Mahalo pia. Okay.
Yeah, excuse me, Lamaku. Keikoa has the microphone right now. Mahalo.
Mahalo for opening up space at there. I truly believe in respectful dialogue and in expressing myself. You know, I find mele to be one of the greatest ways touch the heart, and I would love the opportunity to share a mele, and it is a mo'olelo. And this mo'olelo and this mele has been with me for a while now, and I feel this is a great opportunity to share that mele with you folks, if I may. Ay, mahalo. We should keep the mic a little bit far away. I can face this way. Yeah. Mahalo. Try to make some progress. Kuka kuka here today. Tell me all about the project. The plans of ingenuity. Stretch out the hands full of money. Try to buy these Hawaii. Ole porno, I don't want it. Ele makahi. Kakapohaku like the sun stays. And I'd rather walk away. Bohokala, you cannot buy me.
Kalamai, we're going to ask John DeFries to please pani this evening.
You know, I get asked to close these sessions, but myself, Neil, and Noi Noi are of the same generation. We all kind of got out of high school about the same time. And the two on the far end came a little bit after, okay? And so I'm going to ask them, because this is about as much about putting a foundation in place called the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority as a foundation upon which future generations can actually execute, so that your grandchildren and great-grandchildren have a foundation to come from, okay? Is it perfect? No. Is it striving to be different and responsible? Yes. When the authority members adopted the Kanawai, that was a major commitment and pivot that is taking us down a very different road. You know, and so it's not perfect, and it's not completely Hawaiian. And it takes me back to when Hokulea was only on paper before it was built, okay? You can look back at the fact that it was not made of all native materials, that in itself might have made it imperfect, but it went on to transform how we see ourselves, how we see the world, how we see our potential. And Pumai Bertelman is a direct descendant of that lineage coming off of that va. So I'm going to turn this over to both her and Rich to make closing comments. Rich, you might want to go first.
Yeah, I think so. Thanks, Aj. So first of all, thank you, Kona, for having us over here. Being in astronomy for 32 years, working for Keck Observatory on Mauna Kea, the events that evolved over the last decade told me that the direction we were going was not sustainable, in that there was so much of these issues that we've been hearing from the community causing division, people feeling disrespected and not heard, that I couldn't imagine a positive future for astronomy without trying to find a better way. Like John just said, is it going to be a perfect? No, but can we do better? I think we can, which is why I volunteered to step into this role, which can be really, really difficult at times. When I think about, so one thing that Auntie Noe told me somewhere along that with me ever since was, we're looking up at the stars, are we remembering where our feet are planted? And what I've learned from all these things is that when we think about where our feet are planted, there's a kinship relationship between that Mauna and so many people in Hawaii, that when I think about where my feet are planted, it's not just a patch of ground on the Mauna, but it's to the community as well. So it can be very difficult to have these conversations that we've been having where everybody is learning together and emotions come up and get unearthed from generations and generations. But it is really, really important that we do this with open ears if we're going to find a better way, even if it's a step in the right direction. We have to do this and we have to start. So